Nathan. So, how are you getting on then?
I'm getting on well, thank you.
Good,
Full of family history busyness.
good. So quickly, what's your name then, Nathan?
My name's Nathan and I do lots of different things on Family Tree, and you're Helen Tovey, the editor of Family Tree. Hello there.
Hello there. And we love doing this podcast, don't we?
And we love family history.
We do. I kind of wish the podcast was every day, not once a week, because I just love doing the podcast. You know what? We've had some really nice messages from people as well.
Cool. Let me know. I like the nice messages.
Yes, we've had a lovely message from a guy called Nick, and our podcast has re-energized his research. So that is cool. That's just what you want. We want all of us to be totally energized about our research and not just having it on a daydream wish list, but actually making progress. That's fantastic, isn't it?
That's really good because I worry that we just put people off by just randomly getting lost everywhere.
Yeah, making it sound more difficult. And then lovely Marilyn down under, then she has actually dropped me a little email to say she's wondering how you're getting on with your wards, because she was the podcast listener who was very keen to find out if you're related. And I did assure her that you are the king of the research log and you will be making progress. And if a connection gets made, then you'll be back in touch.
Yes, well, Marilyn's part of my black holes, my rabbit hole list. So I was actually, for this podcast, I was going to write a list of every single rabbit hole I've got, but I thought we don't have that much time. I do intend to look at that, and I have started looking at a little bit, but on exploring the number of wards in my local area and the number of wards in the past that I found called Mary, because I think it was someone called Mary on her list. There are a lot. It's quite a common name, so I actually think the chances of me finding her probably are slimmer than I think. I'm quite excited. I'd quite like to be related to Captain Thunderbolt, so it's on there. Don't you worry. I will be pursuing that.
And also, there's another little overlap with Marilyn because she's got obsessed with a military ancestor called Frederick, and she says he's now turned into her version of Tank Man. So Tank Man's now a shortcut for when you're getting obsessed with a military person.
Look it up in the dictionary and is there. Tank.
Yeah.
Nice.
So how's your research been going then this week?
Well, if you remember last time, I'd said that I stopped being rabbit hole man and I became factual man. And then I got scared and didn't write anything up because it was so far in the past that Ancestry wasn't picking up the ticks and whatever. So I've gone away, and having said that I will do this for my homework, I've actually gone away and actually done my homework correctly this time. I've not got caught up. So yeah, I've written everybody up, but I sold you some duff information on some of the things I said in the last podcast. So I mentioned about a family member called Edward Lupton who might have been renting land from his potential father-in-law. And I said that he was living with lots of different people at the same time. So there's a few things to say here. Firstly, I found out that the Joseph Gill who he was renting from isn't his father-in-law. I've got loads to tell you. I've just realised there's loads of funny craziness going on, right? It could be a rabbit hole or it just could be madness. Anyway, I'll let you decide. So, number one, he wasn't renting land from his father-in-law to be. I found that out. I'll come back to that in a minute because that's quite amusing. And I said to you about him living with lots of people, thinking it was from that land registry tax list thing. It wasn't. And if you remember me saying last week, I was saying about how the 1841 census didn't allow me to put people's names in. And then I had the quote unquote brainwave to go to the 1851, and maybe that would let me. It turns out I'd actually already tried this last week before our podcast, and it didn't work. And the reason it didn't work was because Edward Lupton was living in a house with 5 or 6 different people, and everyone's got a different name. And that's the bit I was getting confused about. But in there, I feel is a rabbit hole for me to get lost with also, because like, where is he living? What's he doing? I haven't explored that yet because, again, it just reeks of a rabbit hole. So I need to look at that. Maybe I'll show you that later on. So I managed, I don't know what I did, but I've managed to get Edward Lupton Sr. to now appear on my family tree with his wife. That's all good. That's fine. Sorry, I feel like I'm proper just ranting now. Edward Lupton Jr., he married Christina Gill, and I said that her father wasn't on the wedding certificate, if you remember, but there was a Francis Gill. Turns out Francis Gill's her dad. It was one of those ones where I just flippantly just saw it and thought, well, that's a girl's name. It's not. It's a bloke's name. So yeah, this is just really amused me. It's really frustrating and it's really amused me. But I think my relatives in the past have decided that we're going to all become family historians in the future and just want to mess with my mind. So it's bad enough I've got Edward Lupton and Edward Lupton Senior. On this Christina Gill side now, Francis Gill married a woman called Dinah, Dinah. Is it Dinah or Dina?
I think it's to be Diane, wouldn't it?
Is it?
Diahan.
No, Dinah.
Yeah, Dinah.
Dinah.
Hmm.
So he married Dinah Holmes. Lovely jubbly. They have a child. It's a boy. They call it Francis. Right? Okay, so he's called Francis, and they've got a child called Francis. They have another child. It's a girl. They name it Francis. But
Brilliant.
no, it's not brilliant. It's very, very confusing. So, but they've spelt the Francis slightly differently. So I've got Francis Senior, Francis Junior, Francis Junior female, and then they have another child, and they call that Dinah.
I love it.
No, it's awful. I don't love it. But then it turns out that Francis Gill Senior, his mum was called Dinah. So there's like 3 Dinahs in the family.
Yes.
It's a name I've never heard of in my life, and now I've got 3 of them. It's just very confusing. I've got 3 Francises, 1's female, 2 are male. I just think they're taking the mickey. I think this family are just like, right, people are going to be looking for us. Let's confuse the crap out of them. Let's create loads of records with these names that are all the same and just confuse everybody.
Love it.
That's my rant.
I love it. Maybe they were thinking like that. So with a quick like nerd tip, so if it's a Francis with an IS on the end, it tends to be a boy, and Francis with an ES on the end tends to be a girl. But if you're factoring in the old handwriting, sometimes can be hard to tell. Anyway, kind of.
It can, yeah. I mean, I've now learnt that lesson, but yes, at the time I was just like, what? But why would you do that? I mean, Francis, you shout Francis. I guess if you shout Francis and tea's ready, all of them are going to come running. Fantastic.
Handy.
Yeah, they'll save some time there.
But then I think, well, you'll probably find that if we could scroll back and actually find out what they were actually called round about their house, you'll probably find none of them are called Francis, because I have this in my family, like in more recent generations. So, for instance, one of my grandfathers, his name is Alexander, and his nickname is Bill. It's like, that's the nickname for William. He doesn't even have William as his middle name. Yeah.
Right, of course.
Yes. So how are you ever going to work that out? And then my granny's name was Elizabeth. Her nickname was Mary.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
That is weird.
not out to help us, because then you find these letters which are from a Mary, and you're like, well, who's Mary? Mary's not on my family tree. Mary isn't on your family tree, but Mary is there under a special code name.
I spent 4 years being called Greg.
Did you really?
Yeah. I went to art college and obviously like meeting people when you first start. I met this one girl and she looked at me. She was like, what's your name? And I was about to tell her and she goes, you look like Greg. I'm going to call you Greg. And then from then on, anyone who'd actually already met me prior to that just decided to change and call me Greg. So I lived a couple of years as a Greg.
Interesting.
It's not on any official documents, so my future generations won't get confused when doing research. So they'll be thankful for that. But
So if you were at art college, were you signing your paintings, Greg?
no, I wasn't proud enough of what I did to sign anything. Weird.
Well, I always love hearing what you've been getting up to. What I've been reflecting on this week, I have done some research, but I was reflecting on your research because I felt a little bit embarrassed last week because you were talking about your Edward Lupton that you found in the land tax records in the 1830s in England. And I wasn't really much help to you because I didn't really know about these records. And I could, when you showed it to me, I could decipher it. But I was like, I don't actually know what this is. I feel really ill-equipped, unknowledgeable. And I like to be a know-it-all. I like to know what's happening. So I didn't really like that feeling. And then I thought this is a really useful learning point to me because you'd come across this record because you look at the hints. And whatever we say about the hints, they are good at making us consider sources that if you're following the same old kind of research paths on your website of choice, you might not come across. So that was a really useful lesson to me to think that stop being so hoity-toity about hints and actually look at them sometimes, and I'll get other ideas of other records that I can explore. So I kind of thank you, Nathan. That's always the thing, isn't it? When you try and help somebody, you always get helped yourself. So I've got helped with that learning lesson.
Yeah, that is an interesting point, isn't it? Because otherwise you would just be like, right, I'm going to the census, I'm going to the birth, marriage, death. And I didn't even know that land tax record existed. I've never heard of it, and that's why it's exciting. But yeah, that's an interesting point. You don't think about when things are coming in.
Sometimes you don't even know what's even possibly out there. And we had a really good session. We've been running this course recently by Karen Evans, and it's how to use Ancestry better. And this is something I did know, but it's a really good reminder. So when let's say you went and clicked through and you found the land tax record for Edward, then it's worth, Ancestry are really good at providing information about the record. So the stuff that you and I don't know about what this land tax record is, it will have several paragraphs below the record saying what it is, like where the originals are held, why they were collected, the sort of details that you can expect to find about your ancestor. And they do this for all of the records, whether they're military, census, anything. So when you go to the search field for that record collection, scroll down to the bottom, you can learn about the record. I mean, it doesn't take long. It just takes a minute or two, and it just helps to log away that information. And then, when you got in a muddle because you thought you were looking at a household, but then it wasn't a household, was it? It was a bunch of people renting of somebody else. Then that explanation at the bottom will just help to clarify to you or to any of us about a new record that we're looking at. There's explanatory notes.
I do love a new record. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I'm looking at the 1851 census as we're talking. I think I've got some quite interesting stuff about Edward Lupton that I've not explored yet.
Yeah, that was interesting. You said he was living with other people. So my first thought was like, well, potentially, is he a young man? Is he of an age to be an apprentice? Is he early on in his working career? Because quite often you will find young men on the move like that, and young women as well. And they're living in another household as they kind of start their adult life or older.
Well, if I'm reading this right, I think he might be a servant in the house, which would make sense in terms of why. Actually, in fact, he is. There's someone called Elizabeth Keller who's above him, who's called housekeeper. I think he's a servant in the house. Interesting. So there's something big to explore there, at least some stickle or something or other.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how many other people are in the house. Like, is it a large household with lots of servants? Potentially, it could be quite a big, prestigious building. In bigger, older buildings, that higher quality architecture tend to survive better, don't they? If you go back to medieval times, most houses haven't even survived because they're too poor quality built, but the better ones will survive.
Yeah. So it's this one here. Bingley is the head of the house. And then we've got a servant who's the housekeeper, and then 3 other people underneath. One's Edward Lupton, and I can't make out what that says. Aglab?
Yes.
Agricultural labourer?
Yes. So this is what's happening in the house. He's living in Appley Lane, and we don't know what number or anything he's living at, because that number over on the far left-hand side isn't the house number, is it? It's just the schedule number, that 132. But he's living in Appley Lane, and the head of the household is Samuel Bingley, who is a farmer with 100 acres, employing 3 men. And then it has the lists of the 3 men, one of which is your Edward. So Edward Lupton, Benjamin Goodall, and William Holden or Holder. They're all agricultural labourers. And look at them, the ages. So Edward's the oldest one, 23. The others are 15 and 13. And then with them is a widow, who's the housekeeper.
Right. Is that what that W stands for there?
Yeah.
And she's 50.
It's really interesting. And so Samuel hasn't married. He's got a U in his column. So he's an unmarried farmer, and he's got a housekeeper and his servants living with him. So they're live-in farm workers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be really fun. So because that's the 1851 census, then this would be really good to go and look up Samuel in the tithe records, and you'll be able to find where his 100 acres were, and then you can get more of an idea about where your Edward is working. And for me, I think 100 acres is a lot of land to just have 3 people working on when you haven't got much machinery. So I suspect, and this is me going off into guessing land, there's going to have to be other people who worked on Samuel Bingley's farm. Right. These 3, but these 3 are the living ones.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's a lot of information from the census. Like, obviously I've been using the other censuses to find information out, but that really paints a picture quite quickly, doesn't it?
It does, because if you can find his farm, potentially you can even go and find the farm, and the farm buildings might be there, and then you can imagine your Edward living there. Really good project.
Yeah, I'll add it to my list.
Yeah.
Farming rabbit holes.
Yes. And being an agricultural labourer, then obviously as you go through the Victorian period, this is like really history lesson, but the Industrial Revolution just takes off more and more, doesn't it? And so people move from the rural areas into the town. It's not necessarily an easy time to be an ag lab. Not that there's ever been an easy time to be an ag lab, but it gets harder and harder, and so people go to the towns in search of better employment opportunities.
Yeah.
But he's still there.
Yeah. And like I think like I'm probably generalizing quite a lot, but I feel like a lot of people on my family tree are already sort of with a partner or about to get married at that age, 23, 24. So
Mm.
it seems quite odd that he's not at this point, but obviously I do know he gets married.
Mm.
It's just interesting to put him in
Mm.
a lot of time for him.
There have been really interesting studies about ages of marriage, and I think the 1960s was where people were extraordinarily young for getting married. And our assumption is in the past that everybody got married young, because when we're at school, we get taught about kings and queens, and there's lots of them getting married when they're aged 12 or 14, that sort of idea.
Right.
Even younger, because they're making dynastic matches, whereas most of our ancestors were ordinary people, and the marriage ages is pretty late, like quite often I think in the later end of their 20s. And the reason is because it's back to contraception. There's no contraception, and if you're getting married, you're not allowed to have sex before you get married, but once you get married you're having sex, and so you're having babies, so you need to have a certain level of socioeconomic stability to think, can I get married? Because can I afford these kids? Am I in a good enough position? And where often women, their employment opportunities were compromised after they got married. So the man has to be like, am I in a good enough position to be able to afford children? So it's complicated. It's like, because there's no one to help.
No. No, it's still, I know we've discussed it before, but it still shocks me the amount of children that appear, the side shoots that just suddenly explode from like, you're just looking at two people and then you're like, oh yeah, they got married. And then you go to the census, 10 children. And it's like, wow, a whole wealth of names. Everyone's called Francis. It's just crazy. But there's just so many, aren't there? But I've just checked now, and he got married in 1855. So that's what, 4 years after he's been on this farm. I guess I need to check the next census and see what he's doing then. All right, all links together, doesn't it? I like it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really pleased that you have stuck to your homework. You've kind of stuck on target. And at the end of the last podcast, we were teasing ourselves because we are bad at sticking with our homework. We invariably go off and do something else completely different. And because we'd made such a big song and dance about how rubbish we were at sticking to the plan, then I actually stuck to the plan as well. Amazing. I know. I haven't completed the plan, but all of the family, well, not all of the family history, but 2/3 of the family history I've done over the past week has been sticking to the plan, just with one little side shoot. It's pretty good, isn't it?
That's really good. Yeah, we're such goodies, aren't we?
I know. So shall I tell you what I've been doing? And then
Go
I've
for it.
got a thing I want to launch on anybody who's listening to this.
Intriguing. Yes, go
Yeah.
for it.
Okay, so I quickly found out where Manchuria was, because that's where my granny's Second World War sweetheart was a prisoner of war. And so it's next to Outer Mongolia.
Obviously.
I know, and next to Russia, and next to Japan, and next to China. It's in between all of them. So China below, Japan over to the east, Outer Mongolia over to the west, Russia to the north. I was like, I didn't even know Outer Mongolia was a real place. I thought it was a fantasy place. I feel such a twit. I feel a super twit. Anyway, so I learnt where that was. And then my blithe little project was to find a list of all the people who were prisoners of war in Japanese prisoners of war camp. And then I found out that there were 300,000 Japanese prisoners of war, Allied prisoners of war. And I was like, that's quite a long list. I mean, even admittedly, not all of them are in Manchuria, but that's still going to have a lot of people to go at. And so far I've just got to the stage where I found a list, which off the top of my head, I think is very roughly maybe about 10 different camps. So there's 10 possible camps that he might have been in. So I need to get the list for these 10 camps. So that's where I'm up to with that one.
Right.
That's
That's quite good. That's quite good going then. You've narrowed it down from A gajillion people to 10 camps. How many people were in a camp?
I don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
Good question. I don't know. So that was one thing I was supposed to do and have been making progress with. And the other was to find out what fencibles were, because I found out that I can't remember who he is, four or five, I think it's my 5 times great grandpa was a Sutherland fencible. So I found out a little bit about fencibles. So what happened was in the 1750s, fencible units were set up all over the UK, so all over England and Scotland, and I don't know about Wales to my shame, but definitely England and Scotland to help protect Britain against possible invasion from France. And this is more lovely context stuff. So I've got ancestors who are in the Highlands, and initially, so they set them up in the 1750s, I think 1759, in England, and then they were a bit worried, I think this is right, about setting them up in Scotland, because you'll know this from your work on with History Scotland, that you've got things like the Battle of Culloden, and if you're from an English Southerner point of view, the Scots are not to be trusted with arms, and so then they have this dilemma of whether they're going to let Scottish fencible units be set up, but obviously they need the island to be protected. Yeah, British
Yeah.
they do let them set them up. And my dad, he has this picture of this old Scottish guy wearing checkered socks and the kilt, the whole bit. And anyway, I've worked out who that is. That was somebody who was in the Sutherland Fencibles, and he was called, I think, Samuel MacDonald, and he was 7'4". Whenever they used to march anywhere, they used to put him at the front. This is going off to rabbit hole territory. I don't really need to know this about the Sutherland Fencibles, but it was fun. So they put him at the front because he was so big and intimidating. And then I've learned a little bit more about the uniform to find out what it would have been like to be in the Sutherland Fencibles. And this isn't necessarily a Southern fencible, but one of the Highland fencible regiments, they had their bonnet, their hat, like a flat kind of tam o' shanter hat, but they would have an eagle's feather in it. And again, this is like another thing of just like, it opens up a different door in your brain, because now we would be appalled about getting a feather off an eagle to put it in your hat. But then if you scroll back a few centuries and you're living in an environment where you yourself are much more immersed in the rural landscape that you live in, and the birds of prey, you have a completely different relationship with them. You kind of, some of them are working animals, aren't they? And people were like, nowadays, on the one hand, we treat animals terribly through our food industry, and the other hand, we're really precious about them. Yep. Whereas in the past, it was much more direct relationship with them. So they're living in the Highlands. There are eagles, and you have an eagle as part of your eagle's feather as part of your uniform.
Yeah, like living off the fat of the land almost.
I don't know. Just made me think how much times has changed.
Yeah, well, I guess they were probably more abundant back then as well. Nature could do what it wanted more without us getting in the way and destroying and polluting.
Yes.
Your research is so different to mine. You just get into these minuscule details from history, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's really deep historical research.
But it's not. But so Nathan, I've been researching for a long time now. I don't even know how long. Let's say 25 years. Yeah. But then if you actually look at, so on my tree on Ancestry, I can't remember how many people I have. I have like 500 and something people, which is like the miniest tree. Everyone else has like 4,000, 30,000, blah, blah, blah. And I do actually have a few more hundred people. But back in 2020, when we had that lockdown, I completely took down all my trees from everywhere. And I just went back to the records I have. And I was like, right, I'm going to rebuild my tree from scratch, because I've become a better researcher in the intervening few decades. So I literally started with a blank tree, no sneaky on file to give me a head start or anything. And I just started inputting the details from all the records I collected over the years. And I found it fascinating, because instead of scooting past, that's why I'm always banging, don't scoot past the birth certificates. I've learned now, like when I first came across a birth certificate or a census or anything else, I smash and grab their name, grab their age, off I go, next document, do. But then now I'm like, no, savor it all. It's just packed with gems. It's literally like taking the lid off a chocolate box. It's like, study the whole page, study the previous page, the next page. It's all going to delight you. So I've started doing that. Anyway, so that's 2020 when I started doing my tree rebuild. So I've still got a few more hundred people who I haven't added back into my tree, because I keep faffing around finding out about eagle's feathers on someone who I don't even think it was a Sutherland Fencibles regiment. I have to check that last fact, because I haven't written that down, and it's happened a few days ago, so it's clean forgot now. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool though. I don't know. Like, again, the historical context and the surroundings, you seem to get to that much easier than me, whereas I'm like, do, 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 do. Oh, hi, he's a farmer, and that's it. I'll just take that as as done and dusted. I'm just impressed, Helen. I just like your
Thanks.
knowledge. It's brilliant.
Well, thank you, but I think I have a not very practical, quite whimsical frame of mind, which is really fun indulging in these things, but it doesn't get you any prizes. Yeah, it's just it's just fun.
It does get you prizes. The prize is your research and the
Yeah.
in the texture. It's amazing. I love it.
Well, I love it. I find it fascinating. So this is the challenge then for anybody who would like to join in. And I think it's be good for me and you because I think we've inadvertently done it. So in last week's episode of the podcast, me and Nathan finished slightly teasing ourselves, as we just mentioned a moment ago, that we are very bad at sticking to what we said our homework would be. But I think because we made quite a big fuss about saying how bad we were, we've gone away and over the past week, we have actually stuck to the plan a little bit. So I would like to offer up anybody who happens to listen to the podcast, if you would like to make a pledge, then you can contact us. So you can just email us at editorial@family-tree.co.uk, or if you have either of our personal email addresses, just use them. Email us and say what it is you're going to research over the coming week or month, and we'll hold you to it, okay? And we'll read it out in the podcast, and then we'll get back in touch with you and find out whether you've done it. Because I think sometimes it's nice to have a bit of accountability.
It is, yeah. That's definitely a good one. That'll get people work.
We'll see. We'll see if anyone's brave enough to take the
Guilt trip
challenge.
everyone. Guilt trip.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
It's
also, I'm so nosy, I'd love to know what people are planning to do as well.
I mean, there isn't going to be any time for this to be read out next week because I actually have decided I'm going to go back to the beginning of our podcasts, go through every podcast and write down every single rabbit hole that I've mentioned that I want to do that I haven't done. Most of them are in my research log because I'm a good boy, but I'm just going to read a list out of all the rabbit holes that I've not yet done.
Brilliant.
Pure terror. Pure terror.
Yes. And then we'll have a dated evidence of those rabbit holes. Oh, and then you can gradually, well, the list is going to grow. It's just going to grow.
It really is. I mean, I'm meant to be sensibly going backwards. Now I'm going to be researching farmland in Rawdon for no apparent. I'm going to say for no apparent reason. For a reason. No, there's no reason, is there? It's just building texture. But yeah, whatever.
And you will find out other things like I'm making this up wildly, but potentially you will read in newspaper accounts and a fire might have broken out in the barn where they're storing all the grain or straw or whatever. And if they've got insurance, that's great. But if they haven't, and everything is hard work, there was machinery obviously coming in because the agricultural revolution happened before the industrial revolution, but it's still a lot of manual labour. It's hard work. It's a weather-dependent industry even today, isn't it? So how gutting if there was a fire on the farm or whatever. I read too much Thomas Hardy, but yes, you're going to find out about things. You can find out about the local market if he was a pig farmer or cow farmer, or probably in Yorkshire a sheep farmer. You're going to find out about him going to market and selling the sheep.
Yeah.
Find out about market day and from local trade directories and things.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess this is all again new stuff that I need to learn because I haven't got to those bits yet. So it'll be cool. I've got a few practical ancestry questions for you. I'm going to make this a new segment, Nathan's practical ancestry segment, and I'm going to put you on the spot, and you might not know the answers.
I might not.
So one, actually, there's nothing practical about this. Francis Gill is like 20 years older than his wife. That's commonplace, isn't it? That doesn't really matter. The only thing about that was it gave me fear because Dina Gill's parents were born like a few years before her husband. It freaked me out quite a lot that I could be actually in the wrong generation. That's absolutely nothing. I'm just stating that as a fact. Anyway, right. Back to the ancestry stuff. One of my friends listens to the podcast and she gets annoyed with me because I often refer to the generations as ancestry does. And I'll be honest, I don't really know what they mean anymore. because I wouldn't naturally, if I'm talking to you, what I do, I'll say something like, oh, my great 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 granddad. But then obviously on Ancestry, it says Nathan's fourth great grandparent. So sometimes on the podcast, I will say it like that. And I don't actually know what that means. It sounds like it's a generation out from where it should be in my head. That because
It's the same. It's just a shortcut. So obviously, if you're looking at your ancestry tree, it's quite a succinct view of your family tree, isn't it? So if you are going to write great, 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 that's going to take up a lot of space. So all they do is just this put 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. So if it's I think they'll say, off the top of my head, I think they'll say great grandfather. And then for everything beyond that, it'll go 2 times great, which just means great, great. 3 times great, which means it's great, great, great.
yeah, that makes more sense. I think it's because they use second, third, fourth, and fifth. So it sounds a bit not clunkier, but like 2 times great grandparent does make sense instantly to me. Whereas second great grandparent, it's an odd phrase. Why are they the second?
It's a really odd phase. And I think this is really interesting. So when we had Karen's masterclass, there was an interesting discussion just in the chat, when you're having a webinar and then people start chatting on topic in the side. And the discussion was, which is more common? Is it more common to say great uncle or granduncle? And that ties into what you're saying. And my feeling is that traditionally in British English, then you would have said, you say grandfather and grandmother, great grandfather, great grandmother, great great grandfather, great great grandmother, like what you just said. That's how you'd say it.
Yeah.
You'd never say second great grandmother. You'd say great great grandmother. And you might say 4 times, like I say 4 times grandpa, 5 times grandpa. You might say that as well. And then when you're talking about your great aunts and uncles, so you obviously have your aunt and uncle, and you go back one generation. So your great aunt and your great uncle are the same generation as your grandfather and your grandmother, because they don't have the word grand in the traditional British way of doing it. And from the discussion, the New Zealanders are the same. They do the same as us. So you have grandfather, grandmother, same generation as great aunt, great uncle. But in the States, they tend to, apparently, happy to be corrected as ever, say granduncle, which kind of is really neat because then it does follow across. You have grandmother, grandfather, grandaunt, granduncle. Yeah. And then so that all matches. And then when you get to the previous generation, you'd have great grandmother and you'd have great grandaunt. So it matches really neatly. Anyway, this terminology, the second great grandmother, the grandaunt, these feel to me as though they're computer technology or computer phrasing or potentially traditional American wording, which is coming in because we're all using the same interfaces, because we're corresponding with DNA matches all over the place. So partly what we're reading on the screens we study, and partly the people we correspond with worldwide doing our family history. So there's a lot of American DNA matches. So lots of us correspond with American DNA matches. More and more, the language is blurring a bit, and you'll definitely find both used in with British researchers.
Right. I'm guessing there's no way to change that style, is there? There's not a setting in Ancestry where I can go, change this to 2 times great grandparent.
I don't think there is. No.
I think as well, like maybe it's laziness on my part, but for ease of access, you work in generations, don't you? And I'd like to say, oh, I've got back 4 generations, and that's like 4 times great grandparent. But that's not true, is it? Because my 4 times great grandparent, do I count myself as a generation? Or is that a lot? Do I have that? Am I zero? Am I 0 generation, and then my mum and dad are 1 generation back?
No, I think you have to be a generation.
Right.
You're not nothing. This is a good question. If anyone feels strongly about it, please let us know. I think it doesn't matter, but
So my grandparents are 3 generations. That's my 3rd generation back then.
well, let's say you had a family tree which included you, your mum and dad, and your 4 grandparents. You'd say I've got a 3-generation family tree, I think, wouldn't you? Because there's 3 generations.
3 levels, yeah. So then I go back 4, and then I go back 5. But the 5th one, that's my 2 times great grandparents. It's just for me personally, it annoys me because it confuses me. I'm like, how far back are you? Well, I'm at my 2 times great grandparents, which is actually 5 generations. Can't they just be my 5 times great grandparents? I know they can't because that makes no sense because I'm not my own grandparent. But it's just personal confusion. Whatever. Right, okay, this is a new one. Changing the subject entirely. So obviously I was talking about being sensible, doing my tree, getting names, digits, and numbers, blah 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 blah, not getting caught in rabbit holes, which I've succeeded at doing 2 weeks on the trot. And now, this last week, I don't know how new this is, and I don't know if you've seen it, but on Ancestry now, there's a tree rating. What they're doing to me, because this is bringing out the completionist in me. This is like, well, I need to get mine to 10, and I hate it. I'm at 9.5.
That's fantastic.
I know.
Nathan, that is so good. So back to Karen's Ancestry masterclass that we've been doing. So we all put our tree ratings into the chat just to everyone to compare. And mine was 8 point something, 8.9. I can't remember what it was. And that was actually pretty good. It's like fairly respectable, not bad. But 9 point, I think that beats everyone. I think the highest we had in the group was 9.4.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that just shows because you've been really thorough and right from the get-go about everything you're doing, whereas lots of us, like what I was saying about me doing smash and grab family history or not being completionist about things, not dotting all the I's. And it says the criteria. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but it's whether you've got duplicate information or missing information and things like that, I think, isn't it?
I mean, is this new, or have I just not noticed it?
No, it is quite new. So I thought that was a Pro Tools thing, to be honest.
Right. It's just a new level of terror for me now because, again, I want to be the best. I want everything to be the greatest. And now it's like, well, I can't put anything in my tree now. What if that number goes down?
You'll be fine.
I'm not sure I will. I'm not sure I'm going to cope with this. Do you know what's really upsetting though? So if I click on it, it says tree checker 9.5, excellent. Nathan, you're such a good boy. And then it says deep dive into these ancestors' errors. Two of them are my nana and my granddad. And they're saying I've got errors on people that I should know a lot about. I don't know how to correct that.
Well, they're probably not errors. So first of all, just remember, just because it says something doesn't mean it's right. Yeah, it's only an algorithm, isn't it?
I think is it saying it's wrong just because I don't have enough sources because they're not appearing on enough documents?
So is it identifying what the problems are? I'm just going to my tree rating. So my tree rating's 8.9. It's better than what I thought. I'm going to have to get competitive with you, Nathan. Now.
Hey, the game is on.
Yes. So tell me that bit again. It's your nana and your grandpa, and then
Yeah. It just says deep dive into these ancestors' errors, doesn't tell you what they are. It says uncover all errors with the Pro Tools, so you do have to upgrade to uncover more errors.
so it does. So I've got Pro Tools, and then so what happens is I click on my tree rating, which is up in the top right hand corner. So Pro Tools, it costs very roughly about $7.99 a month. The good thing about Pro Tools is you don't have to subscribe to it forever. So what you can do, you can pay $7.99, then you can go, right, I'm going to have a big drive on my tree to find out about it. So Pro Tools will help you spot errors. It will also do other fun things like enable you to create a larger fan chart. I think it goes up to 7 generations, not just 4 generations, which is just really pretty. If you want to see that, it's a really nice visual way to see your family tree. And then it's also really good for DNA enhanced shared matching for DNA. So back to the tree rating, which is what we're talking about now. You click on the number. And then you'll be brought up, if you do have Pro Tools, a list of all the people in your tree who've got problems. So I knew what I told you, I only had like 500 or something people in my tree. 185 of them are being identified as having problems.
Wow. I don't think I'd sleep at night knowing that.
No, and then when I click on the name of the person in the list, it's hyperlinked through to their profile page. And over on the right-hand side, it was bringing up a list of what was wrong, and so it was saying that there were no sources shown. So then it will clarify what the problems are.
Yeah, it is doing this for me actually. I've just clicked through. So I clicked on my number and it said there's 14 possible errors on my tree. Oh boy. And all of them are under, it's giving me 4 options. Possible duplicates, only tree documentation, no documentation, and other errors. All 14 and no documentation. So then I clicked on my granddad and it says, my granddad has no records or other sources attached to them. So I just don't have any sources attached to them. But is that a recent history thing because there's no census?
To be fair to Ancestry, I think this is we might not like being, the recipient of a long list of errors on our tree, but none of us should have any details on there which haven't got a source next to them. That's naughty. Because the reason it's naughty is because you're not doing yourself or myself, any one of us, we're not doing ourselves any favors, because then in the future we can suddenly feel uncertain about why those details are there. Whereas if you include a source, so if you say, I found those details on the 1851 census, then you'll know where you found that information. So if you're including a birth date, a death date, a marriage date, an address, then you need to provide where the heck you got this information.
Yeah, and I guess because with particularly with Nana and Grandad, I've got the information from source, and the source is my mother, and she's not on Ancestry. So
When you add the fact, so if you quickly go to the tree, I'm just going to look at, so let's say we're going to edit a fact on the tree. So you can at that point attach a source. So we've gone to our person, we've gone to the thing, let's say it's a marriage for an ancestor, and we press the little edit pen on that marriage fact on our timeline, and then we can edit the fact. So at that point we can attach a source. Yeah.
yes. Citation attached to marriage, other source citations for Dennis. Right, okay. But what if there isn't a source? I guess for these people, because they were obviously people that I knew, I've just jumped past them, haven't I? I've gone, these are my grandparents, da, 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 let's go further back in time. And then I've not needed to clarify who they are. As a early tree builder, I wasn't the person I am now. I was just building my tree to get further back. So I know who my grandparents are, so I haven't needed to clarify any details for them. But if I'm going to geek out and try and get this number higher,
So do you know what? There's two reasons why I think you need to add a source for your granny and grandpa. So you know those details, you're confident about them, and you got them from your mum or from documents in that metal box, metal trunk. So it's all valid and fine, but you need to include the details, one, for you, so that your tree score goes higher. And then the other reason you need to do it is when you start looking at your DNA matches in particular, but also just doing regular family history research, when I get hints and it's to somebody's a public member tree, or if I'm looking at my DNA matches, then I will make brutal assessments of the trees I'm looking at and think, are they worth me looking at? And if I see someone's got 12,000 people on their tree and no sources, no records showing, I'm just like, well, I don't know where you got that information from, and you probably don't remember either. So I might visit their tree and have a look at it, but I'm going to choose somebody who's got lots of records on. So once you get to the point that you want to collaborate with other people, and then it's really good if you've got the records, because they're going to be probably, if they're like me, making those mean judgments too about the validity of your research.
right. Yeah, that's cool.
So it's like a little badge going, I've done my work.
Yeah.
I haven't just copied and pasted from pie in the sky wishfulness.
Equally, like passing it down to my future generations as well. They won't know the details, so. Because I think I got a note from Ancestry saying your tree's getting bigger now. Do you want to add somebody to it for when you croak, basically, so that they can carry it on? Which, yeah, again, yes. Oh, I feel like such a bad lad now.
Well, that's the highest score I've heard out of anyone. But if anybody's listening's got a better score than Nathan, what was it, 9.5?
Yeah,
Let us know. We'll give you a shout out. It's amazing.
yeah. I'll
Very
be
impressive.
8 by next week.
Mm.
I won't.
You might be.
I'm gonna try. You know I'm gonna try. Oh, I hate myself. I'm so like this.
I have to say I'm not going to try. I'll do a little bit of trying, but it's not a priority. I will do it. I'm not disrespecting it. It's just, when you're busy and you've got a list of things to do, and I can't, if I'm really honest with myself, see it hitting the top of the to-do list, trying to get my score better. But if it did get better, I'd be very pleased.
I think this is why I'm a runner. I'm just very stubborn and I get single-minded about these things. Whatever. It's all
Good.
fun, isn't it? I need extra things to do, like just checking on early family members that I know of instead of actually getting further back. It's not like I ain't got anything else to do.
But it won't take you long. You just need to add a source, either a source for them or a source for each piece of information you've got from them. I'm not sure what will improve your score better. You'll have to experiment.
Am I being daft though? Is it harder to find sources for modern day people? It's honestly something I've not even looked into. It might be a silly question. I just know
It's not a silly question. It's a really good question. So, no, there is like a golden period of family history, very roughly from like the 1840s through to the 1940s, because there's lots of digitized records the historic closure period. So sometimes some records have a legal requirement; they have to be shut for 100 years. So those have elapsed. You're looking at much more heavily bureaucratic administrative things like the census, like the civil registration. You're looking at the tax records, the tithe records. These are much more electoral register from the 1830s onwards in the UK gets more and more people on it, doesn't it? The start of the Great Reform Bill, not many people could vote. So those electoral registers don't have many people on them. They have a few well-off people. No, within a century, you even have women on there. Loads of women. Radical stuff. Yeah. So yes, there's like that golden period of easy access records, and then once you get to the mid 20th century, it gets harder because of the closure periods. Yeah.
Yeah.
And things like, I think I've said it before, but I found it fascinating. I think it's the 1960s in Britain, only half of households have a telephone. So you might have a phone book, but you're still only 50-50 chance you're actually going to find your ancestors' family listed in there.
Yeah. And then people might choose to go X directory.
Exactly. Get to the 90s and people start going X directory like mad. Because that wasn't a very good idea to be in the phone book.
I know. Could you imagine telling those people now? There's going to be this thing called the internet where all of your information is going to be on there. So hiding your phone number isn't actually that, bad a thing.
Yeah.
Right. I've got one more ancestry related question. So earlier, tracking back a little bit, you mentioned about newspaper cuttings, etc. I have had a few come up and I haven't investigated deeply and they're not on my research log. I'm a bad person, but they were requiring me to subscribe to yet another section of Ancestry. Is that another paid thing that I have to do, like Ancestry newspapers or something like that?
It is. It's newspapers.com and it does require further payment. And this is what I would personally recommend is I would have a look, but without paying any money, or you could take a free trial. Well, but it's a few things you could do. You could either write a list of all the instances where newspapers have been useful to you. Keep a list on your research log. It can be on a separate tab on your Excel sheet. And then you could take out a free trial to, say, newspapers.com and see, you look them all up and see what you can find. And then think, am I going to continue liking to use newspapers? And if so, you could take out a subscription. But what I would also say is, before you pay anything, try and find out which newspapers have been digitized within newspapers.com, because it might say it's got 20 million or 40 million. I have no idea how many millions newspapers it has. But if it hasn't got the Pudsey area covered for the period you want, you're going to feel frustrated. And you're going to do searches and not find your ancestors in the paper because the papers haven't been digitized. So you need to establish which papers are in that collection of millions and millions of newspapers. And the other major place to go is Find My Past, and the other is called the British Newspaper Archive. So you can either subscribe directly to the British Newspaper Archive, or you can subscribe to Find My Past, and either which way you're going to get the newspaper collections. And once again, they have many millions of records. I can't remember. Might even be 90 million. I can't remember. It's millions of records. But again, you need to make sure that the newspapers for your area and era of interest are covered. You start shelling out, and they continue to add to them. So it could be, if they're not covered right now, just make a note in your research log, say in December, check back with these websites, find out whether my areas of newspapers have been covered. Because you don't want to be spending 6 months subscription and they haven't got your papers. And for lots of people, our family is not too widespread, but it's really widespread. And so we've got lots of chances we're going to find newspapers of interest. Whereas somebody like you who's got such a locally based family, I think that's your number one thing. You need to make sure they've got your papers.
Yeah, and I feel for me personally, I need to have a reason to go into those newspapers. The reason I was interested was it was a new thing, again, a new document that was coming up on the hints. I was like, wow, I'm interested in this, but it was more for the fact it was a new document, not necessarily, I don't know who it was for. Let's say it was for Edward Lupton. He was featured in a news story. I have no real current reason to delve further and flesh him out yet. And I know I might want to later, but like if it was like an RAF record, I'd be like jumping all over it, thinking, oh yeah, I need to find out what this says, and that would be really interesting. So I guess I need to establish that before I fork out any money.
And And all of this can be a whole new column, as it could be a whole tab of newspaper wish lists, or it could just be somewhere on your research log. You can have a column which you could call like wish list or ideas for further research. Call it whatever you want, and then you can note that down. And if you put the word newspaper in there, like hashtag it newspaper, then you can search your research log for that hashtag, can't you?
Yeah.
And find all those instances in newspaper that you want to do. And like you like the color, the context, you get a flavor for their lives. So as you're thinking about the farmer, think about how a farmer might be reported in the local newspaper, and then just add that in there. Add the farmer's name, Samuel Bingley, even though, because he's not going to be on your tree. And so you're just going to save yourself time by mentioning your ancestor's employer's name in there, because that's who you're probably going to be searching on in the newspaper to help you find out about the farm.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like all that.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Do you think we better go now?
Can't stop talking, can we?
No.
Yeah, well, we're giving the listeners the homework for the week.
Yes.
I'm quite excited to see what happens there. My homework is to get my tree rating up by at least 1%.
Wow.
I mean, it isn't. It shouldn't be. I should do something more sensible. I feel like I need to stop with this Lupton and Gill thing and move on to a different side of the tree, because I'm trying to be sensible and get everyone back. But I know that on my tree, I've got one great, 3 times removed, whatever, great grandparent who hasn't got a wife yet, and I've just skipped him, gone to everybody else around him. It's like, why have I done that? So I maybe need to give some love to, I think it's Sam Wood, give him some attention. I'm really focused right now. I'm not getting rabbit hole. I'm going back.
It's good.
I mean, actually, is my tree rating a rabbit hole? It could be. Or is Nathan's pointless completion is the whatever. Yes, that's what.
No, I think if it's anything with family history, if something's a problem, the sooner you sort it out, the better. We've got to stop talking. We've got to stop talking. Okay, thanks for listening, everybody. If you want to get more tips, then please do sign up to our e-newsletter. It comes out at least every Monday, and it is packed with useful information. And you can get it by going to www.family-tree.co.uk/newsletter _sign-up. Anyway, if you sign up to that, we can give you more useful tips, and we'll be back next week. And in the meantime, we would love it if we can hear from anybody about any pledges that they would like to become thoroughly accountable to. And we'll read out your name, just your first name, and your thing that you want to pledge, like the family history goal you want to do, and then we'll check in with you in the future, and we'll find out how you're getting on.
Yeah, that sounds great. Looking forward to that.
Cheers, Seb. Bye-bye.
Adios.